Hey, how's it going? I I've been having a struggle with consistency lately, or focusing on how I can be consistent in all of the ways that I want to be consistent. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to reflect and to think about it and to maybe kind of explore this topic with you so that you can find more consistency in your life and move towards your dreams in a more measurable and significant way because consistency really is the secret to achieving so much. And maybe you've heard this before, and maybe you know this, and you go, yeah, yeah, I know, but sometimes I'm not, and that's okay. I think it's easy to beat ourselves up, especially with how social media works and the kind of content that's produced out there, and it's kind of like if you're not growing, you're failing, and all of that. And I find it a little disagreeable. A lot of the personal growth, development, shorts and videos that people produce where it's this kind of like binary system where if you aren't performing at your maximum, then you're a complete and utter failure. And I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we're biological creatures that have chemical systems and neurological processes and all these other biological processes that make you a little bit more inconsistent. And it's actually more of an effort to be consistent than the other way around. And perhaps that's the whole struggle that we deal with in today's society, especially when we have to be producing a certain amount to exist in this world, and it has to be of certain value. If not for ourselves, then for other people. And you can imagine that in this reality that we live in, living it unexamined, you can start to create these capitalist perceptions of value that you create in the world attached to your identity, and then now then you're kind of grading yourself on a scale of how well you conform to the value system of creating value. Right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you ever just kind of feel like because you're not productive or that because you're not accomplishing things or doing things that you feel like you're a waste of space, or that you don't feel good about yourself, or you lack confidence? Maybe you don't even feel that, but perhaps you feel more confident, or you just feel more good about yourself when you are productive and you do things, right? And so this is kind of the balance or the struggle that I find myself in on a day-to-day basis. Like, how do I remain consistent in moving forward all of my goals? And I have so many goals, and maybe that's a problem because I'm so creative in what I want to do that like I just create a lot of goals. Programming, starting a software company, finishing bottom surgery, traveling around the world, making the right investments, writing my next book, creating more content for my social media, showing up for my regular job, doing the work there. And the lists go on. Make new friends, move to San Francisco. And like sometimes things just slip for me. And maybe this is kind of like, this is one of the most important things that I've learned and has made it possible for me to actually do so much more, is that you really kind of need to find what is the most impactful thing in your life that you can move forward and prioritize that, and be okay with not being consistent or showing up for the things that are less important. And I think this is an important lesson to learn if you are a founder, if you're running a business, if you're just running your life, and if you're really trying to do the best for yourself. In contrast, I'll use my dad as an example. My dad is retired, and so because he's retired, he doesn't have any sort of priority system. It's kind of lost a sense of priority. And because of that, because I think he has ADHD and I have ADHD as well, I find him doing things that are not moving the needle for his life when it comes to taking care of your home. He just does everything, and everything is at an equal level of priority. And I see this with people who aren't retired and are just living their regular lives. And maybe you're like this too. Your priorities aren't really based on impact to your life. It's just based on what you think you need to get done right now, which might be something that can help you figure out what's impactful. But is scrolling on your phone, is watching a video the right thing to prioritize when maybe you need to do the laundry, or you need to send this email that you've been procrastinating on to this person because you were looking for an opportunity there or something. It's easy to kind of get wrapped up in the day-to-day of living a life where you need to show up. And I found this to be more so the case when I'm constantly creating content for social media, is the energy it takes to be consistent and to show up there really actually pulls and subtracts away from the work that I can do that can be most impactful in my life in a way that can actually move the needle forward for me in a significant way. I think the thing that will move my life forward in the most significant way right now is coding. Learning to program is going to take me from here to here in what I can accomplish and create in the world. I don't really need to worry about how I'm going to monetize it, because those are monetizable skills since you're creating a lot of value, and it's hard to do that. But I'm just learning right now, absorbing and learning. And because of that, I need to deprioritize most other things except fundamental stuff like moving the needle forward on getting bottom surgery if I need to respond to an email and paperwork there, or just moving to San Francisco and like getting my life set up there. Those are kind of the main priorities. Showing up and making videos on YouTube consistently, unfortunately, that has to take a back step to the rest of my life, and I have to be okay with it. And this is probably the thing that you may struggle with, and I have certainly struggled with, is being okay with not being consistent with the things that are not as important to your life. I don't mean to you, because this is very important to me. Like, YouTube is my forever thing, or speaking and engaging with you is my forever thing. But my life exists in a larger scope, and there's other things that I need to work on. So kind of going back to you, like, think about the things in your life that are really going to move the needle. I don't mean like move the needle just today, but move the needle in like looking back years from now, you go, oh, because I did that, I really helped move things forward in my life that was super impactful. And finding those small things where you can create momentum. Because if you haven't started, it's incredibly hard to start, right? So getting the small momentum and being okay with imperfect. Perfect is the enemy of good, as they say. Being okay with an imperfect start and continuing to progress and really making that your priority is going to help you a ton. And being okay with the fact that you're letting other things slide or burn or just fall apart, that's got to be okay too. When I broke up with this Paris guy a couple months ago, I literally took 2 months to make another video, which is unlike me. And you know, I normally make so many more videos. So let that be kind of an example of how I'm living up and prioritizing. And in this case, it was prioritizing myself and my healing as something that's going to help you and me in the future, because then I can show up later and feel good about myself and all of that. So there's that. And I have another thing in my mind, but basically if I were to wrap this up, I would say it's like looking for the high impact thing in your life and showing up for that, and being okay with not being consistent in these other realms that are less important. The next thing that I'll say is, when you are showing up and you're having a hard time showing up consistently, creating a foundation, creating a baseline for yourself is really, really going to help you build on top of the momentum that you're creating. So for me, the most important thing is to have a working space where I know when I show up, I've got my keyboard, I've got my monitors, I've got my mouse, I've got my mat for my mouse, and I've got my tea. And as long as I have all of those things, I can show up and really focus and do the work that needs to be done. Now, I'm not always going to be in the mood to learn coding, and so sometimes I'll switch gears and focus on something else. I'm writing my second book, and I'm just doing that for fun right now, and I'm not being super serious about it. And that helps me move the needle when sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to do it today. Doing that little bit and having that setup that makes it so much easier to just step into it and get going can really start to build momentum for yourself. So thinking about, I guess there's 2 pieces in there. The first one is setting up a flow space, setting up a place where you can just enter flow. One of the most important things for flow is that you give your space, or you give a setup for entering flow, because you don't just enter flow, you have something that is the gateway to entering flow. And flow state is this state where you're kind of connected with what you're doing. You're not self-reflexive. You're feeling joy, and you're doing something at a level where you're kind of peak performance. And typically this is where skill meets challenge, right? So you need to be doing something challenging enough to be able to meet that. So we're covering so many important topics here. So flow is really important. Setting up flow space is really important. So setting up your space, whatever that is, to get into flow, and preparing yourself for flow. So you don't need to enter flow until you sit down and do the work, or wherever you're doing it. And then, what was I talking about? Entering flow, and then, and then the other part is finding momentum, getting the wheel turning. So writing the book was just, hey, just write a little bit, do a little journaling. Writing the code is just open up your Xcode and then just start typing in some stuff. Start reviewing the code, start making some little tweaks, and then before you know it, I've spent a few hours writing code, really getting myself focused and honed on something like that. So let's kind of recap that with the 3 takeaways. The first takeaway is prioritization, and I mean like impact, like thinking sometimes like priorities on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like, what are your priorities? Like, how do you prioritize? What do you consider a priority? Perhaps you consider a priority responding to that text message, making yourself dinner, going out and getting groceries. Those are certainly priorities. But do you lose sight of the larger priorities that might be more impactful for you? Make sure you keep an eye on that. So do the high priorities and let the other things slide. You definitely need food. You definitely need to make money so that you can support yourself. But what are those dreams? What are those smaller things that you might be procrastinating that are actually really, really big for you? The next thing is setting up your flow space, making sure that you have flow, you have a place that is conducive for creating flow. Like, what is that for you? Is it having a cup of tea? Is it creating a safe space for yourself? Is it having just like a nice pen and paper? Is it having a clear space? Like, what is it that's just going to help you get into the zone? And then the third thing is finding that small little piece of momentum that's going to help you start spinning up and really, really, really getting there. So if you would like to support the channel and you'd like to help me grow this channel and my message, please consider joining and becoming a member. You can come in at $3, you can come in at $10, you can come in at $20 or even more. Your support really helps me invest in this side of my world and put more money behind growing the channel and getting this message out there so people could be more thoughtful, people can improve their lives, and people can just make better decisions so we can all live a better and happier life. I'm Ashley Adamson. Thank you for joining me, and let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, what stuck with you, what kind of stood out, what's really helped you, and so I can kind of hone that message for another video or a short or something. I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye.